DuckTales, Season 3, Episode 20. The Lost Cargo of Kit Cloudkicker.
Oh, fuck.
What?
And there goes the Made for Kids label. Get that out of the way right up front.
Yeah, you guys do this review because apparently I watched the wrong one. Like, the one I watched said Season 3, Episode 20, but it had a different name.
What was it?
Sky Pirates of the Sky.
That's the same one.
Okay, thank God.
It had Cloudkicker as Baloo as taking over for Baloo.
No, Don Carnage.
Well,
It had Don Carnage and
the Blue Rock.
Dewey and-
Yeah, Blue Rock. Okay.
Okay, then you're
Yeah,
fine.
Okay,
that's
good.
the right one.
That
Yes.
scared me.
Yes, if it had the Blue
You
Rock,
probably
you're
just
okay.
watched it was probably just a foreign version that they changed the title on.
Or auto translate or something.
Yeah.
So that it makes they did it in that whatever language you picked it up from. They probably changed the title to make it more, catchy.
Friendly to their area.
Yeah, friendly to the
'cause-
area, or if you write it down like Lost Cargo of Kit Cloudkicker in another language, Kit Cloudkicker doesn't make as much sense in a different language. Because they have a different name. They have a different name for clouds and kicking, so they're like, this instead, and it makes it more interesting. So,
And a bit more redundant. That just sounds like either a old school Doctor Who episode or foreign translate.
yeah, and so the most extreme sort of almost personification of the 90s, Dewey, actually his talent is flying the plane very stably.
Yeah.
Is this an ant farm?
Which is also
That's
funny
awesome.
because he's had like an hour's worth of actual hands-on training, and he lands the plane better than Launchpad.
Launchpad. Although, I mean, it does make sense that his special talent or whatever is flying. His mom's a pilot. His oddly adult best friend is a pilot.
Yeah.
Because that friendship isn't weird at all.
Eh.
They're the same
Well,
mental
remember.
age.
True.
Adults call them decals.
But yeah, he just fly is as radical as Dewey wants to be. No, his special talent is I can fly this plane very stably. I can. If he wasn't trying to Dewey it up, he probably would have landed the plane just fine.
Yeah.
Given that he was ordinary. It's like, oh.
It's kind of like the opposite of that first season finale with Launchpad. Sorry to crash your party. Damn it, I'm trying to crash here.
Oh yeah, no, I remember. No, anyway, but yeah, that was interesting. It's like, yeah, oh yeah, this is, and of course Huey is absolutely terrified, and
Oh, of
to an
course.
extent, rightfully so.
I
Because
mean,
it's Dewey.
His brother, who is equally his age but a lot more immature, is piloting the plane.
Yeah, which of the two, you'd think, okay, who's gonna be the brother that flies really stably, lands by the book on both ends of it, taking off, landing, just both ends, just by the book, by the numbers, and it's like, yeah, it's Huey. No, Dewey. What?
What
But
would be really funny is, I mean, we've already seen Huey's evil, creepy side. So if he was the one who's able to Dewey it up, so to speak, and like had all the fancy moves,
Yeah.
like having to go save his brothers, and he's like, oh, I got to do something dangerous and outlandish, and I don't want to do it, but I have to save my brothers. And he totally pones.
Yeah, he he completely does it. And then Louis is just like, okay, I don't really need to do anything, because if we want stable flight, we go ask Dewey. If we want something crazy, we get Huey to do it. So I'm just going to go back here and count the money.
No,
Right.
he's the navigator.
Yeah,
Because he's able to figure out the best position for everything by instinct.
yeah. But yeah, it's
And hey, that means that Scrooge doesn't have to worry about Launchpad anymore being run off with his boyfriend
Darkwing. Yeah.
Dark, because he can just have his grandnephew do it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's basically he's got
He saved-
several
he
decent. He's got a couple decent pilots now to choose from. Like, if he doesn't care about, if he just wants, craziness, you can have Launchpad. If you want he has two sane pilots in Della and Dewey. They can both pilot. Like,
Yep.
like they're both very stable. And I imagine if Huey, who's probably has anxiety off the charts and would spend 3 hours on pre-flight checks. Just like, it's okay, you've checked it 3 times. It's what you got. I want to make sure before we take off.
No. He would do pre-flight checks while they're crashing.
No, I don't think Huey would have the problem of crashing. I think he would be fine once he got in the air. Like, he would be extremely, everything would be, constantly checking knobs and obsessing over, am I flying perfectly straight? Do I have the right heading? Am I going in the right direction? I check my radar, make sure I don't have anybody around me, like super defensive flying. But I think his problem wouldn't be once he got to actually behind the stick and pulled up. Like, once he was off the ground, I think he would be very obsessive, but he would be a very safe pilot to have. Like, obviously with training and whatnot, but and Della doing the co-pilot to make sure he doesn't do anything stupid. But he would be he would grow up to be a very, very safe pilot. But he would need to arrive about 3 hours prior to the flight to do all his pre-flight checks, so that he makes sure he can check everything in triplicate, and he has like clipboards on clipboards. Like,
this is my checklist for my checklist. You've been talking to Twilight too much.
well, I mean, we've established that my personality is fairly
I wasn't
similar.
talking about you. I was talking about him.
Yeah, I know. Twilight does the same thing, but I'm just thinking, like, okay, if I was in Huey's shoes and somebody told me, yeah, we're gonna give you flying lessons, which I'm not sure that that age that's even legal, but this is DuckTales, so who cares? But if
Also, Scrooge is rich, so he could just
you're a lot of times they're in international waters anyway, or a place where nobody, it's a lost island, so there's no government there. But so nobody's.
Plus, you saw Della was training Dewey outside of civilization. So
So assuming that, like, trying to put myself in Huey's shoes, or lack of shoes at this point, because duck.
shoot Huey's feet.
Yeah, putting myself in his red hat. Put that much. I would say my biggest thing would be I would be if I exaggerated my own personality into Huey, it would be checklist, 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 and even when I've checked everything, I would be checking again just to be certain, and then I would be fine, but I would still be monitoring everything and a little freaked out the entire time, though I'd be flying perfectly straightly. I think, yeah, I think that's the kind of, if I'm as much like Huey as you guys seem to think, I think that's how he would be. He would be fine once he got in the air, if a bit anxious, you know, but like pre-flight checks, he
I
would
mean,
be crazy with.
that's not to say he'd actually be good at it, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's a lot of like there's finite things you can do, and I think he would be fine once he, you know, once he calmed down. um, I think given he's got the same, you know, same mother, I think piloting is probably something he can do. You know, we don't know, but the way he goes about business, I think he would be fine. Like, I would be honestly, if I was Della, Dewey would be the one I would be most scared of putting behind the stick. Like, Louis would actually be kind of like he would be kind of blasé about the whole thing. Like, I think I would also be a little worried about, because he would be. I think he's got a little bit of laziness to him, and so I
A
think
little
you'd,
bit.
yeah, a little bit there. So he would have to be, you have to make sure he does the checks and does them properly, the pre-flight checks. But I think, like, it would take the least amount of time to train Huey, because the most things you'd have to both, one, get him to stop doing pre-flight checks because he'd done all of them 3 times, and then once you got him up there, to get him to be less anxious. I think that bring him down from being over obsessive about things. Like, he would have the manual and all the rules memorized before he would even think about going anywhere near this thing to fly it. Unless it was an emergency. But I think if he could ever get past his anxiety and stop doing pre-flight checks, I think he would be fine. I think he would be the one I would be least concerned about, because he would actually, he's very meticulous, so he would do the pre-flight checks very thoroughly. But yeah, of the 3, he would be the one I'm least concerned about it. But it depends on what Louis would be concerned about actually getting to do the checks, and Dewey about doing crazy stunts because he's going to Dewey it up. But turns out Dewey is just really good at flying straight and level, so that's good.
I mean, now that we've gotten that rant out of the way,
Yes.
Yeah.
first of all, it's interesting the timeline on this, because we have a grown-up Cloudkicker,
Mm-hmm.
which he was Blue's protege in Tailspin.
Yeah.
So that's like the same timeline as the original DuckTales.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of like some weird time skip almost, because we have all of the stuff that happened in the 80s and 90s still happened in the 80s and 90s, but the Duck family is now not part of it.
They kind of Simpsoned. They kind of just sort of kept.
I don't know, because I don't watch Simpsons.
Well, I mean, just the fact that they haven't aged since the 80s
Yeah,
and 90s, but
that's
everybody else
happened
around them has. But the Simpsons, that hasn't happened. But like they kind of got shifted the whole Duck Clan forward about 20 years, but then they kept everybody else sort of going.
Yes, but no, because back then they did have crossover things like Gizmo Duck taking place, interacting with Darkwing Duck. And I think DuckTales also did crossover with Tailspin at one point.
Well,
And
yeah, and well, the fact that there's a Don Carnage at all is
yeah.
so Don Carnage
Also, Don
is
Carnage,
weird because he remembers
he
getting beat up by being messed with by Baloo and Kit, but
he does not look old enough.
yeah, the timelines are a little screwy. It's like, okay, so they were old Nemesis. So Carnage is in the Tailspin timeline, so he's supposed to be much older than what he is. Like, he still looks very young. Like, he looks like he did in the original. Like, he hasn't aged
Yeah.
since then, but then Kit has aged, from what he was, to what he is now. And so the timelines are a little screwy, but yeah, I didn't really understand. And I guess with it being, you wouldn't have gotten to have whatever the sort of moral of the story wouldn't have worked as well. But it seems kind of odd that they kind of kept everybody else for the most part like they were. They look and act like they're of the moment for the most part. I don't think that there's like the 80s and 90s things didn't happen until you get to this point, and then Tailspin was back then, but Carnage hasn't aged, but Kit has. And was it Elizabeth, or I forget what her name was.
That was Molly.
Molly, yeah. But Molly and Kit have. So it just sort of, and Baloo is, who knows where Baloo is, but at this point, but
Baloo finally got up the nerve to marry Rebecca, and they gave Kit the company to retire in Spoonerville.
yeah, he became a bartender or something.
Yeah.
But
Hope he didn't drink all the profits.
yeah, but yeah, it's just like it was kind of interesting, even that the whole thing sort of like everything up until this point, they basically brought everybody into the modern era.
Not completely though, because Darkwing Duck was originally a TV show, and all the stuff that happened in Darkwing Duck
was fake.
Was faked, but in the past.
Yeah, it was
around the time that it actually happened. So
yeah, the timelines get a little screwy when you start getting into Darkwing and Tailspin, but when it's in DuckTales, it actually mostly holds up.
That does make you wonder, because Darkwing did have Launchpad as his companion.
Yeah, so like, yeah, it just
how that kind of work in canon.
Yeah, if they hadn't made him, I mean, this is a showrunner level sort of decision. The decision to make it a TV show, Darkwing was a TV show, and not restart Darkwing from scratch as an actual thing in the series. It does make the timelines a little screwy, but
I do like how they rebooted it, though. Like, I do like that premise of
even if
giving Negaduck a genuine origin story for one.
Yeah, it's interesting, but it's it just interesting. It's a trade off. There's an
Yeah,
interesting story here, but it does make the timelines a little screwy.
yeah, you have to. It's a little give and take there. You
Yeah,
have in order to get, but even with Doctor Who, it's never fully like the timelines are never fully thing. When you have a canon that long spread,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Doctor Who
like
can just good grief. I mean, the
I know. I'm
yeah,
not even talking about the new ones. I'm talking about even up to the end of the Seventh Doctor era, there was already so much like bouncing around between canon.
yeah.
Like they
Like, I
couldn't
think
even
this
keep
canon's
themselves
better. I
straight.
think this canon's better, and so you have authors just sort of fighting over
Yeah,
what's
but
canon.
like in Time in the Rani,
Yeah.
the Doctor and the Rani were 953 years old. He said it himself. It was canon, which made sense within that series because the fourth Doctor was he said he was 700, but then Romana's like, aren't you older than that? Maybe I'm lying, or maybe I forgot. I don't know. You don't know. Who cares? Paraphrasing, but that's basically what he said. And then he exactly said he was 953 because that was the password to get them out. And he's like, oh, of course it is. That's my age. And the Ronnies. I love how the seventh Doctor says Ronnie. Anyways, that little R roll. Um, anyways, so then he goes and says in his ninth life, in 900 years of traveling through space and time, I've never been slapped by anyone's mother. And the writers took that as, oh, I'm 900 years old instead of I've been traveling for 900 years, which would have made sense if it was intended as I was traveling for 900 years because he was a couple hundred years old when he started traveling. He was 250 in his second incarnation. So he was already a hundreds of years, 100, 200 years old before he even took the TARDIS. So that would have made him 1,000 or something, which would have made sense as 900 years traveling through space and time. He would have been 1,000. That would have been fine. But then they took it and ran with it as I'm 900 years old, even though he totally wasn't. So timelines are weird in all canon.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I mean, Star Trek has done the same thing, screwed with their timeline. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And
I'm not even talking about Discovery because I
yeah.
haven't even
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
watched
Yeah.
it.
Not
You
even
know what I
getting
mean?
into that.
Not,
Yeah.
I mean, talking about even before Abrams verse,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
before
I
the
think
Kelvin.
TNG was the kind of it mostly tried to take
TNG and
TOS in the
Voyager was
movies
what,
and kind of straighten them out. Like
yeah, but
it's
they also fucked it up a lot too.
yeah, but they were at least
And
trying to
that,
okay, this is
yeah,
this is canon. This is what the Romulans are actually like. Okay, here's the Klingons. Okay,
yeah,
this is what they're like.
Next Gen and Voyager were the prime culprits, but that's because they were around for so long. And then you get to Enterprise and they just threw everything out the window and they're like, let's just fuck up everything.
But yeah, at least in TNG, they tried to establish okay, this is canon.
They
This is the
had
timeline,
yeah,
and they still mess up occasionally. But at least okay, this is how things are, and then
they had continuity at least.
yeah, and and we got a lot of lore in DS9 as well as to okay, this is how these species work. This is how these species work. Okay, and then you just sort of like okay. And we actually okay. This is what okay, this is what Cardassians are like, and this is how this is, and it's like it. Yeah, it's.
Uh, excuse me for a second. I have to get out my bingo board. Star Trek. There we go.
We got Star Trek, Doctor Who, a pedantic argument about timelines and continuity. Check. Me going on a 5-minute rant about something. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that must be bingo by now if you have your cards.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh wait, nobody said wibbly wobbly timey wimey. There you go, bingo. You're welcome.
But yeah, I mean it was kind of cute. When he went off with Molly at the end.
Yeah. Although, I mean, that bugbear kind of seemed familiar.
Bugbear.
That Della Road.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Road that flew her
Yeah.
around.
It wasn't quite Panda Ring, but it was. It was.
Yeah.
It was. It was technically a bugbear.
Although technically not, because butterflies are technically not considered bugs, because bugs are considered pests, things that usually either bite or infest.
But if
Butterflies
if
don't
you
really
asked
count.
somebody in the target audience of the show, is a butterfly a bug? Yeah, it's a bug.
Yeah, to a layman,
I mean, I don't know what
it would be
the
considered a bug
definition
because it
is
is an
of
insect.
bug, but
Although,
they are a bug
yeah,
type. Butterfree is a bug type, so.
true, true. I mean, that does count, I guess.
But I mean, it's how it's used, so. But
Yeah.
it's yeah.
And there's My Little Pony reference and a Pokemon reference.
We don't even usually get into Pokemon. That's a special secret square. If you
Yeah,
have Pokemon,
that's
it's
one
a
of
heck
those.
of a board today. But yeah, I thought it was kind of cute that they went off like that. Though I think it would have. One thing I also wanted to talk about was Kit's accent a little weird? Like his voice was a little off from what he sounded like as a kid. I don't remember very well, but I don't remember
No,
having that kind of accent.
no.
But
He had
I
a
seem to remember him having something
standard,
like a. Go ahead.
he had a standard Midwest accent.
Yeah. Okay. Well. Yeah. Well, he seemed a little. He seemed like he was drifting a little north in his accent towards sort of almost a Minnesota Dakota accent instead of sort of the boring thing. I think he. I seem to remember. I don't remember very well, but I seem to remember he had something like a basically another Jonathan Taylor Thomas type voice. That kind of voice that all the male kid characters had at that in that era.
True. But I mean, also you have to take into account the fact that one, he is an orphan, and it's more dependent on where you grew up, because if you spend a lot of time in a place,
Yeah.
even if that's not your natural accent, you pick up characteristics of that.
Yeah. And I think he's got but I don't where did he get the upper Midwest accent? Like it starts to bleed into an upper Midwest accent, but who is he hanging around that had an upper Midwest accent?
Didn't Rebecca have a more like Michigan, Wisconsin type accent that's further north? Not quite like Minnesota, but
Yeah, I was just going into that sort of just
Nebraska. But didn't she
generally.
have a high
Yeah,
accent?
I don't remember. I don't remember what accent she had, but I would have thought his accent would take more after Baloo. But then again, maybe if he got together with Rebecca, he saw her a lot more, and her having a strong accent tapped into
Yeah.
him a little bit. I don't remember exactly what
I
her
really
accent
have
sounded
to
like.
watch Tailspin again. It's been a long time,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think she had a high North Midwest accent.
Yeah. Well, if she did, then that makes sense. But it just seemed kind of odd at the time.
Although
Um,
what doesn't make sense is Molly didn't seem to have much of by way of that that accent. Her accent was more subdued than Kit, which Rebecca was Molly's mother. So you'd think that she would have more of the accent characteristics than Kit would.
well, then again, you also have to think she is also a traveling performer. So she moves around a
True.
lot. So she might have been spending a lot of time in places that don't have that strong accent. And that might have influenced her
True.
accent. But anyway.
True.
I should totally watch this episode.
Oh, and we also
Yeah.
had the last little bit of the combining rock. It actually, though, Carnage still managed to get a piece of it. It's like
Yeah.
like Fowl still has a little bit of it, though what you would use it for, I don't know, because it doesn't seem very helpful.
Well, I mean, it depends. You could go the TMNT route and mutate it, create a mutant army.
Yeah, but the mutant army seems a little chaotic because given the what happened to Carnage's people, it seemed a little haphazard and you didn't know what exactly you were going to get out of it.
Yeah.
And you might end up worse off than when you started.
Yeah. No, I definitely watched a different episode.
Oh well. Yep.
Yeah, see, my first plan was like, okay, I'm gonna go on my Disney Now app and watch it. Okay, so there's the first episode, and it skipped like 5 episodes.
What?
Yeah, the Disney Now app doesn't really have all the episodes in order. They just like had the most relevant episode, like the first and last. Like, okay, you do that. I see how it is.
Anyway. Any other thoughts on this particular episode? We've gone on quite a while.
It had pirates in it.
Yeah. So you didn't watch it. I thought you said you did watch it.
No, I thought I did because it's like, oh, it has Don Carnage in it. The one I watched had Don Carnage in it.
Wait, did you watch the one from like last season?
I think I did.
The one where they were singing and
Yes.
they first met he first met Dewey and he
Yeah,
pretended
it sounds
to
like
be
what it
dad.
was.
Yeah.
That's why I brought up the Blue Rock, but
I don't
Oh, yeah.
remember a rock in that one.
well, no, why I brought it up when we were questioning whether
Yeah,
you'd
I
seen it
know,
or
but
not.
I
No,
just
no,
That's
because
what I brought up the Blue
there
Rock.
was a blue rock in that one too. Well, it was like the sapphire lost
yeah,
souls.
that wasn't a rock. That was more of a gem.
yeah.
But
Oh yeah, the gem that they had picked up at the flea market or whatever, and Louis thought it was some ancient secret, some ancient like liar's monkey paw, whatever, where it's like cursed. Okay.
yeah, that's where the Blue Rock caused confusion. But anyway, yeah. Do we have
I
anything
should have
else?
said there. Because there was no bugbear in the other Sky Pirates one.
Yeah, that's where it threw me off. It's like, wait.
So yeah, the moral of the story is a very pony-esque type thing. Just because you enjoy something or you want to be one way doesn't mean that's who you are. So be true to who you are. You can still have fun and do the other thing though, but don't expect to be good at it. It takes a lot more work.
I can agree with that.
Anyway,
Embrace who you are.
uh, if we've got all our side notes and everything worked out, I think we've pretty much exhausted this one
Yeah.
plus some.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well then I will end the stream in 3, 2, 1.
Mwah, mwah, mwah.